The police cruiser lights cut through the trees, blue and red, bouncing off the lake and painting stripes across the old wooden panels of my cabin, the same place my dad built with his own hands, back when Silver Pines Lake was still just a local secret. My wife stood on the porch, steady as stone military ID in her hand, and the two officers kept glancing between her and the wild-eyed woman who'd dragged them out here in the first place. That woman, Cheryl Doyle, but everybody, yes, even her own husband, just called her Karen. She'd been screeching about trespassing rules and no unauthorized move-ins so loud I bet the fish could hear. And let me tell you, she sounded pretty sure of herself, right up until the young cop said, "Ma'am, she has a federal military ID and the name matches the deed. You told us someone broke in." Just like that, Karen froze, mouth open, arms halfway in the air, her confidence melting off like butter on a July sidewalk. Before she could start spinning some new excuse, my wife, Sergeant Megan Price, cool as you please, said, "And if you'd like, I can call my commanding officer. He loves hearing about civilians interfering with service members on leave." Karen's lips moved, but nothing came out, and I figured that was my cue to step out from the shadows, phone camera in hand, rolling on the chaos. But you know what? Let me back up a sec. Stories like this don't just start at full throttle. There's always a lead-in. 3 weeks earlier, Megan finally got approved for her leave after 10 months straight overseas. All I wanted was to give her a few days of real quiet. Just us at the cabin my dad left me. Nothing fancy, just the kind of place that smells like pine needles and fresh paint and feels like coming home. For years, it was our little sanctuary, even when the neighborhood started changing. New folks, new rules, and eventually the birth of an HOA. My dad never had to deal with Karen. She moved in a year after he passed, and she took to President like a fish to water, passing out newsletters, marching around with her two yappy dogs and a clipboard, handing out citations like Halloween candy. She hated everything about how I lived, starting with the way I left my truck by the tree line and didn't trim my lawn to HOA standards, right down to the window frames not matching. She'd leave letters on my door in Comic Sans, no less, and get more riled up every time I ignored her. But things kicked into high gear when Megan came home. I was prepping the porch, sweeping off leaves, and Karen popped up, voice sharp as a tack. "You can't just have someone move in without HOA approval." I said, "That's my wife. She's coming home from active duty," and I swear she looked at me like I just brought home a wolf. "Military or not, rules are rules," she huffed, waving her clipboard. Megan rolled in on a Thursday, slinging her olive duffel, looking dog-tired but unbreakable. The next morning, she went for a run and came back telling me, "I think your neighbor's following me." Sure enough, there was Karen half hidden behind her hedge watching Megan like she was guarding state secrets. I told Megan to ignore her, figured it'd blow over. But then Megan went out to sunbathe on the dock, and Karen stormed down, phone in hand, yelling about privacy violations and unregistered occupancy. Megan sat up squinting into the sun and gave her this look like, "Lady, you have no idea who you're dealing with." Karen snapped a few photos, stormed off, and I saw that glint in Megan's eye, the one that says she's not going to let this slide. A couple days later, while I was out getting supplies, the storm hit. 2 squad cars in the drive, Karen waving her arms like a traffic cop, yelling about squatters and threats. Megan came out military ID ready, calm as ever. The officers checked, the deed checked her ID, and suddenly the mood shifted. "You know you could be in trouble for filing a false report," one cop told Karen. She started rambling about the rules again, but Megan leaned in, her voice almost too gentle. "Want to talk about rules or about federal charges for harassing a service member on leave?" Karen's face drained whiter than fresh paint. And then just when I thought it couldn't get any crazier, a sharp bang echoed from behind the cabin. The old grill's propane valve had been busted open deliberately. Megan hustled everyone back, shut off the gas, and shot Karen a look that said she wasn't buying the must-have-been a raccoon excuse. The officers noted the tools, started sniffing around for evidence, and Karen shrank into herself, muttering about protecting the neighborhood from outsiders. That night, Megan and I sat on the porch, the walls still smelling faintly of smoke. She wrapped herself in an army blanket and said, "She wants us gone. She's willing to risk our lives to do it." I squeezed her hand, wondering how the hell we got here. Karen didn't show her face for a couple days, but we started getting a new kind of harassment letters slipped under the door, each one. More desperate violation notices, threats of fines, even warnings about unregistered tenants. Megan pinned them to the fridge like trophies. But then things escalated. One night, Megan's car was keyed deep and angry with HOA scratched into the paint. She didn't shout, just stared and muttered, "Okay." She started making calls quiet and efficient. By the next afternoon, Karen was back on the dock yelling about neighborhood assessment and claiming she'd called the community board. Megan just smiled and told her, "I've already contacted the county, the VA, and HUD. Trying to evict a federal employee. Big mistake." For the first time, Karen actually backed down. That night, Karen sat outside in her car headlights pointed straight at our cabin, just watching. It felt like we were living in a bad movie. The next morning, I nearly broke my leg when the dock collapsed. The bolts had been removed. Megan called her commanding officer, laid out the whole story: civilian harassment, property damage threats. The very next day, we got a letter from the county, an official investigation into Karen Doyle and the HOA. Then the twist I didn't see coming: a black SUV rolled up to Karen's place, 2 federal agents stepping out, badges flashing. Megan just sipped her coffee cool as a breeze and said, "Let the countdown begin." Turns out she'd filed a complaint with evidence, and now Karen was under a federal microscope. Her committee fell apart. Neighbors started confessing to all sorts of little lies and fees Karen had concocted. But Karen, she tried to fight back with a lawsuit claiming we'd traumatized her, devalued her property, ruined her reputation. Megan just laughed and said, "She hired teens to vandalize our home, now she's the victim." Our lawyer, a crusty Vietnam vet named Mr. Coburn, took our case pro bono, said, "This is about control, not justice." Megan spent days organizing every letter, photo report. She found over 300 complaints Karen had filed, almost all against veteran single women or minorities. In court, Karen showed up in sunglasses and a scarf, tried to play the frail, traumatized victim. But Megan, in uniform, ribbons shining, told the judge Mrs. Doyle is dangerous not because of what she says, but because of what she does. The judge dismissed the suit in under an hour, slapped Karen with a restraining order, and for a moment, it felt like peace. But Karen wasn't finished. We got a letter, just 4 words. "You think it's over?" Then Megan got an anonymous complaint on her military portal accusing her of abusing her credentials. That's when we realized Karen wasn't just coming for our home, she was coming for Megan's career. Megan went back to base to fight it head on, told me to keep watch over the cabin. That's when I noticed the black SUV with out-of-state plates, saw our flag trampled, and started hearing from neighbors about similar threats. And then a photo slipped under our door. Megan at base time-stamped proof that someone was watching us both. Megan looped in a cybercrime friend at Homeland Security who traced the next anonymous email to our own neighbor, Mr. Holloway, the retired school teacher. He'd been feeding Karen everything: our schedules, Megan's deployment dates, even our property records. Federal agents swept him up in a sting, found he'd helped create the fake HOA in the first place. Suddenly, Karen and her circle weren't just neighbors, they were fugitives. Karen went on the run, hiding out in a motel, dyeing her hair in the sink. When the marshals found her, she was screaming about her lake all the way to the squad car. She got 8 years for harassment, arson attempts, and conspiracy. Her little co-founder, Mark, got 4 for data theft. The whole neighborhood came together after that, dissolved the HOA, and started over with a volunteer alliance. No fees, just neighbors looking out for each other. Megan didn't re-enlist for combat, but she became a counselor for other vets, helping them fight battles back home, not just overseas. I wrote this all down because someone needs to remember what happened here. The fear, the bravery, and the victory of just standing your ground. So here's my last thought. Sometimes the people yelling loudest about rules are the ones hiding the most. And the strongest thing you can do is stay calm, stand tall, and never back down. If you've ever been bullied by a neighbor, a boss, or some HOA clipboard warrior, don't let them write your story. If this tale hit home or made you think twice about power and justice, like comment and share. And tell me below, what does real justice look like to you?